All right, welcome. Today we are going to add a little water to the hearts that we shaded on. So you either went around with a red or a magenta, one of those two colors, and we shaded on the outline, and then we faded away from that, and then we did a little bit of shading onto our heart shape, not too dark, just a little bit of tone on there. If you haven't finished that, you're going to want to do that. And then over by the sink, we have some paper that we're going to use for a cover sheet so that it will absorb any water. You are going to want to get a cup of water. There are small cups up there. This one has barely any water in it. We don't need very much for what we're doing today. And then we're going to need a brush. Now, I recommend that when you are picking up a brush, some people's actions they don't know their actions affect other people. And so some of these brushes are pretty gunked up. So if you see one and it is got some powder on it, and it means they haven't gotten all the pigment out of the brush, you may want to rinse it depending on the size of the brush that you've got. All right, I wouldn't rinse it in your water. I would take it to the sink and then just make sure that it is cleaned up pretty good, and then you'll be able to use those. All right, so I'm going to go find a better one. And when we're putting the water onto our pictures, we do not need to put a whole bunch of water. All right, we are just looking at, so I got a decent round brush here. Not too big, it's not a very big area. I might even have to look for something a little smaller. And it's okay to use a couple different brushes. All right, so I'm getting some water. We don't have to do that. All you got to do is just rub your brush along the edge and it will take off any of the excess. And then I'm just going to start in one of the corners. And since we used a watercolor pencil, you're going to notice that right away that the color is going to start to be affected. Now, when I'm doing this, I've already got some red now onto my brush. So I got to be careful that I don't lose my my heart shape. All right, I don't want to get too crazy with this. And you also want to make sure you got a paper towel, because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll clean off the brush. All right, and it's got a little bit of water on it, but not a ton of water, and that will help me blend out some of these edges. So I'm going to work in the background, and again, a little bit of water, knock some of that off. And we're trying to get a nice gradual blend. So I'm not necessarily going on the heart right now. I did separate them right in here to kind of show that dark area. And then I just want some of this color to gradually flow away from the heart. When I just put that one down, I put a whole lot of water down. So what I did was I dried my brush and I let my brush absorb some of the water because I put a little too much on there. All right. So I'm just going to work around the edges, just trying to get my color to blend out. Again, if you get too much water on it, it is going to be a big muddy mess because it's just going to go everywhere. All right. And we want to work kind of quickly because when the pigment dries, the watercolor dries, it will leave little lines where we left off, and that's part of watercolor paintings, but we really want to get a nice kind of red transition, nice shading background. And on here, you can't see very much, but my red is kind of starting to blend out. And I left some of the areas white. I'm not going to go all the way. Everybody's got a little bit different picture. All right, so got a lot of water there. I'm going to use a dry brush. The nice part is if you get a little bit on the heart, it's not that bad. That's why we kind of shaded a little bit towards that. I'm going to turn this one a little bit. So you can see it started to fade away. And then as I work my way around the outer edge, I'm going to come back to my picture and not a whole lot of water, but this time I'm going to go on the heart, and my dark line should still remain where it's at so that I can tell where my heart is at. But again, I don't want to lose that shape. So I've taken and I've gone around the edge and I've let that red kind of bleed into the water, all right? And so now what I'm going to do is clean off my brush, kind of dry it a little bit, and with a dry, slightly wet brush, I'm just going to take and kind of push that red around so that it blends into the white, all right? So I go in with a little bit wetter brush around the edge, kind of define my line a little bit. The red will start to bleed, but I don't want to stop here because that's going to leave a line. So I rinse my brush off, take a slightly damp brush, and I just kind of blend that stuff out so that it's smooth. And I do that all the way around. So I'm going to save these for the rest of these for some of the kids in class, but it gets addictive, so it's kind of hard to stop. All right. So we want to make sure that before we start any of this, that we get our name on the back and our first hour's teacher's name on the back. And then once we get this done, we are going to set it up to dry, all right? And we are going to empty the water out of our cup. We're going to rinse off our brush and make sure that it is nice and clean, and then make sure we stick it brush end up into one of the containers over there. So I'm going to set that off to the side, let that dry a little bit. And when I was making this project, I had a lot of little extra pieces, all right, which was kind of nice. I'm going to come up with a darker background here so we can see it a little bit better. And I had all these end pieces that I didn't want to waste. So there's a couple things we can work on. We are going to, you can finish working on your, let's see if I can get that to zoom in there. There we go. You can finish working on your designs for your heart. Oop, sorry about that. And we can set those off to the side. We're going to use those once our painting is dry. But on this piece here, we can make a Valentine bookmark. So we'll have a couple different things going on here. I have a template that we can use, and we're going to line this up. So what's nice about this one is we're going to take the top portion of this, and we are going to make a little heart shape that folds over, and then in that way when somebody's reading their book, they can use this to kind of mark the page that they're on. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take this little template, if you are at that stage, and we're going to line it up with the very bottom. All right? And then we are going to trace all of our openings so that we know where to go. All right? So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to go in here, trace the inside of that heart, and then, oh, I moved it a little bit, and then I want to get the roundedness, and then I'm going to go down to the point on each side there. All right. So I don't know why this is so bright today. I can try to see if I zoom in. All right. So there are my tracings, and I want to make a line that goes straight across from here. So I'm going to do that with a ruler, and you guys know where those are at. So I'm going to, this is where I'm going to make my fold. All right. And again, it's not showing up very well on the camera here. What if I go off to the side a little bit here? All right. So I've got my line. That's where I'm going to make my fold. And when I do that, I kind of want to score along the edge. And there's a couple different ways I can take care of that. I could use some scissors and a ruler. All right. Or I can push with a mechanical pencil and using just the end. I'm going to use both methods here. All right. So I've got my ruler because I want to keep it straight. And here's my mechanical pencil. I'm going to make sure that the lead is out so it's just the metal piece. And along this edge, I'm just going to run it. I don't want to push too hard, but I just scored the line twice, so I pushed and made a little bit of dent on it. It will then allow me to fold pretty good right there, all right? So I highly recommend if you got a mechanical pencil, that's the easiest way. You could take a pair of scissors, all right? You got to be careful with that, and you could open them up, all right? So I've got them open. I'm just going to use a little bit of the tip, and again, my ruler, just lightly press. You can't push too hard or it will cut the paper, all right? And so now I get to make some choices here. I'm going to start to cut the edges of my heart, all right? And my tracing was a little off, so I'm going to alter it. We just don't want to separate the heart from the bookmark, all right? So I've gone around the edge there, and then I'm going to come up this way, and I'm going to round this a little bit more than what my line had on it. And I'm going to stop where my fold is at. All right. So I've gotten these two. I got my heart shape going on in here. What's nice about this diamond shape here is I'm going to fold this. All right. And I can see my tracing right here. All right. So where that's at, I'm going to cut this while it's folded. Like so. And like so. And then that should give me my heart shape. All right. So if I got any pencil lines on there, I'm just going to go around and erase those. And then what you want to do then is you are free. This one you get a little bit of free reign on it. We know that when I close this, that's going to go over any page that I'm reading. All right. But you can go in with a pencil and design it any way you want. I've got stencils on the counter. You can design both sides. But we'll do this while we're waiting for things to dry. And then once you get some designs in there, we are going to color them with our watercolor pencils. All right. And you can use whatever colors you want in the watercolor pencils. Just make sure it says watercolor and it's got that brush on it, and then you'll be able to color it in. But please use pencil first. All right. We're not going to add any water to these just yet. We'll do that next week when I'm with you, because we'll be bouncing back and forth between a couple projects doing this. And then obviously we're going to wait for this to dry so that we can add our designs to that as well. All right. So I appreciate it. Make sure you're taking your time. You got different things to work on. Stay on task. All right. Remember, it's better to take it serious on day one and try to get things accomplished. And that way, when we get to the end, all you got to do is some touch-ups, and we will be good from there. All right. I appreciate you, and we will see you guys soon. All right. Thanks.